This morning, I am with the lovely Emily Ann, author of historical fiction, and she's going to talk to us today about her debut novel, If I Go. Welcome, Emily. I'm so happy to have you on Between the Lines
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you for having me on. I'm very, very excited.
And I was looking at Emily's information, and I was super excited that she was raised in Charleston. That's kind of like I wish I was raised in Charleston. It sounds like such a cool place to live. So, Emily, just give us a little bit about you, some background, maybe how you got started writing, where you are with all that, and
Yeah,
go from there.
yeah. So I was homeschooled growing up, and I really just took a just I guess took a shine to writing. I just really enjoyed writing from a young age. That was the one subject that my mom didn't have to like keep
Push
pulling
you.
me back to. Yeah. Um, I just naturally love to do it, and as soon as I got my first computer, um, I don't know, I was maybe 14, 15. I just started writing. As soon as I could get into Microsoft Word, it just all these stories would come to me. And so If I Go is actually a story that came to me as a teenager. Being homeschooled, we went on a lot of field trips to all the different historical things in Charleston. And it was on one of these field trips that this idea of the story came into my mind. And I really just kind of played around with the story for a long time, over a decade. uh,
Years?
went to college, got married, had some kids, and finally, a couple years ago, I was like, I think I need to sit down and really get this to where I want it, and then try to put it out there. And so I have a copy right here. Um,
Oh, yeah, the cover's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very pleased with how it turned out.
Did you
So
design that? Did you
I
design that
did.
cover?
I
Oh,
did.
wow. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, I was telling one of my friends, I'm not an artist in the sense of like I can't draw, but if you give me like a computer and Photoshop, I can really work something together. But I'm yesterday in church, my daughter and I were, drawing and sketching during the service because that's the only way that she'll sit still. And I had this moment where I was like, I think that her drawing ability, she's 6, have surpassed my own. I am not an artist in that sense, but so thank
See,
goodness.
I am super good with stick figures. I am so good with stick figures. That's
Yeah,
about as far as it
that's
gets.
about, yeah, that's my limit too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I just, now that my kids are a little bit older and I had a little bit of free time back, now that they don't need me every second of the day, they can kind of sit and play by themselves. It gave me the freedom to really sit down and start this hobby back again. And yeah, I've just really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, it was just such a natural thing for me. It's just something that I've always enjoyed.
Well, have you taken writing classes? How did you particularly learn the craft of writing?
So when um, there was this, I hope that I'm gonna say the um, website or the service correctly. I think it was called Write at Home, and it
Hmm.
was a homeschooling um, service, I guess, that you would pay, and you would send them. It was kind of like an online writing class that I took in high school, and they would send you, prompts, whether it was a research prompt or creative writing, and you would, write it and then send it. And it was kind of like the beta reader process. Like they would go through it with you, and they knew all of the correct way, the formatting and all that. And so I really, really enjoyed that. That was like my favorite thing to do. I'd be so excited to get my feedback from this teacher. And then in college, I had this amazing professor. I went to a very small liberal arts college. I had a professor who really just opened my eyes to the magic that comes with literature, and just introduced me to a lot of the Southern. I took an Appalachian Lit class in college, and so really um, appreciating like the Southern roots part of literature that I think is often overlooked. Um, it just really inspired me too. And so, yeah, I would say those things. But as far as like an actual creative writing class, like I haven't done that. But yeah.
Well, when I was growing up, To Kill a Mockingbird was my all-time favorite book.
Oh yeah.
I devoured it in high school. It was,
Mm,
and going back now, I look at the writing and it's not quite on par with when you're starting to learn the
yeah.
different ways of writing and what we should and shouldn't do. But
Yeah.
the story is just, to me, it was so powerful and had that Southern roots. What I
Mhm.
do now is Southern fiction. So I just love, there's something about the South that there's a richness to it that you don't
There
find.
really is. Yes.
I
I
love
think people in the South, and I mean, you could trace it back. I believe that it's always been true. People in the South, there's this hospitality that is known in the South, but there's also just this um, realness, I guess.
it.
People aren't, there
Down
is,
home. You're
yeah,
down home.
yes, yeah,
Simple. It's simple in a way, in a good way.
yes, in a
Not
good
like
way.
that whole Mayberry RFD, the whole Andy Griffith kind of.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
There's a lot of that I still think I see when I walk into like a little boutique in even a small town that is a nothing town, and you see Christian scripture everywhere. You hear
Mm,
Christian music playing. It
yes,
just feels like you're home, you
yes.
know. And when we were planning to move here, we were looking at a lot of reviews and trying to, I mean, it was a struggle when you're moving across the country.
Yeah.
And we read some review about a guy who hated Tennessee, went on and on about a bunch of Jesus freaks and blah, blah, blah. Plus, he was from New York City and he
Oh,
decided to
well,
come
there you
back. We're like,
go.
okay, you just sold us on it, you know?
Exactly.
That was not exactly. So that's to say, sometimes a bad review is actually a good review. So
Yes.
you just never know.
Yeah.
So the name of your series is Valiant Devotion. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're working. So this book is. I was looking at it, and I was telling Emily here that I just downloaded the Kindle. It is on Kindle Unlimited, which I love because I'm cheap, and I do have Kindle Unlimited, so I download them that way. But it's paperback, ebook. They're all there on Amazon. I'll put the links in so you guys can take a look at that, and you can open it up. It's got good reviews, and it just looks like a rich story. So you have your character is Eleanor, is the main character,
Yes.
the protagonist, and then you have his name is Fred. Is it Fred? Did I get
Fred.
that right? Okay, and then you have a third guy, Owen, that kind of
Yes.
comes into play as well.
Yeah.
So this story spans, it sounds like it spans Eleanor's life, like as a child growing up with Fred as a friend,
Yep.
and she doesn't feel like she fits in. So can you give us a little bit more background on that, the storyline? Not that we want spoilers or anything, although I will say there were some people who gave reviews. I get some spoiler alert. This is a romance, right? It's a historical romance
It's a historic. It
or
kind of
historical
borders both.
fiction.
It kind of borders both. I mean, romance is definitely heavy in it, but I've had people say that it is more of a historical fiction, and
Okay.
I would slightly agree, only because there's more to it. It's not just every scene isn't just based on the two main characters. So
Well, and I see I think that's, to me, that's the basis of a good story because I think that, and I know everyone thinks about romance is so formulaic and you know what's going to happen in the end and you have all these things. Mine going into romance, I've never been able to write that way. To me, it's just too, it's not enough depth. And there are people that want that. They want quick reads. They want to go through as many as they can. And you know what? There's a place and a time for that. And that's great. There is a great audience for that.
mhm.
But there are also people, like especially with historical fiction, you want to learn
Yeah.
something in the time period. You want to be drawn into it so you can live through their experiences. Like in this one is a Civil War, right?
Yes, yeah, that was my main aim with writing this book is I really wanted the reader to feel immersed in this time period, especially from a Southern perspective. Um, and so, yeah, the romance is there, and it's my favorite part of the book. But I also spent a lot of time working on descriptions and focusing on other aspects of the characters' lives so that they are more well rounded and you really kind of understand why they're making the decisions that they're making, what their fears are. Like you don't just read it, like read a line about fear. You've seen it be built up over time.
Deep point of view.
Yes.
And I think that's lacking in a lot of fiction, especially Christian fiction, I must say. There's a deep point of
Yeah.
view is lacking. So I think that's really important. So you have that. So it would be a historical fiction with an element of romance is what you have here.
Yeah.
So, but they did kind of tattle at the end about what happened. So,
Mhm.
I was kind of sad. I mean, you kind of figure, but still, not
Yeah.
knowing sometimes good. So give us a little bit about Eleanor and Fred and Owen and how all this plays into the story.
Yeah. So Eleanor is, I would say, the main character. She is at the beginning of the novel 10 or 11 years old. And she has spent her whole childhood, she's an only child, growing up alongside Fred. And just being a, I would, what you would say now, a free range child, right? She's been able to play in the marshes and run through the forests and climb trees, and more of a boyish childhood
Now,
alongside Fred.
was that atypical for that time period for a girl?
Um, I don't know if it was necessarily atypical. I think that it honestly it depended a lot upon like your parents and where you were in society. Eleanor comes from, I would say, a more upper middle class family, and so her mother is very on her um, to be a lady and to
Right.
kind of refrain from letting her wild self go. And so, for her, it's a battle of wanting to please her mother and understanding that this is a path that she needs to be at eventually. She knows that she has to grow up, and but she's also just so tethered to Fred. She enjoys his presence, and he is the only one who really allows her to be herself, and kind of appreciates who she is, and not what she needs to be. And so she the story kind of unfolds in that Fred's family does not agree with a lot of the reasons that have kind of inspired the Civil War. And so when rumors of war and kind of the drama that comes along with all that takes place, his family decides to move up north, because they align with more of the Union's ideals. And so that just tears Eleanor apart because he was the one person that she could really be herself with. And when he's gone, it's like she just doesn't know how to operate in this world. And you pair that with her, you know, going into her teenage years and just trying to figure out who she is and how to please the people around her. She desperately wants to please everybody around her. And then I introduced the character Owen, who is kind of like the opposite of Fred in that, this book is a lot about decisions and consequences of decisions. And so I kind of use Owen's character as a parallel to Fred's character. Um, and then, yeah, so she eventually grows up and becomes a young woman. And I really say the story really kicks off when she decides to become a Confederate nurse. So that's kind of, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to,
Right. You don't want to spoil it.
yeah.
Okay, so that's where that story goes. Now are you working on book two now?
I am, yes. And book two is not going to include these characters. It's the theme of choosing between kind of love and duty, like doing what you feel like not. I don't want to say flesh because that kind of sounds wrong, but doing what you selfishly would want to do
Right.
in life versus what is the right thing to do, and maybe sacrificing and surrendering some things. So I take that in the sense of a wartime setting and kind of unpackage that in
Well,
the
I think flesh is actually a good word for that. I mean, it's when we follow our flesh rather than we follow the Lord, is
yeah,
our desires become more important than his desires. And
yeah.
um so that book, is that also Civil War?
No, so that one is actually going to be World War I.
Okay, wow. You're
from the
jumping.
from a Southern American perspective, which is not often written about because obviously we were not in World War I for very long. Um,
Well,
so
also World War I is not usually, you see so many, it's almost to me overwhelmingly written about as World War II. You just don't see a whole lot about World War I.
yeah, in World War I, we were also dealing with the Spanish flu at the same time. And so I found that just a very interesting time period, especially from it's going to be based in Charleston again. Uh,
Okay. So do
yeah,
you have a title for that one?
I do. I
What-
haven't released it yet.
Okay, well, when you release it, maybe, I don't know. If we're going to be publishing this on July 17th. So if you release it before then, maybe let me know and I can add it in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah, I will for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
plan on releasing it soon.
well,
I
if you tell me the title though, nobody else is going to know because this won't publish till July 17th.
Okay, okay, I'll tell you the time. I'll tell
Because
you.
I'm not going to be advertising it before then. So you
True.
can
Okay.
tell me.
Okay, so the
Okay.
title for the second one, so the first one is If I Go, and the second one is going to be Where I Stand.
Where I
And it's
stand.
going to kind of parallel kind of like a higher society woman with a, I would say, more lower class man and their perspectives on things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, see, there you go. Got to thinking, oh, maybe I could find out before it's like, but if you're if you're gonna release it soon, I'm
Yeah,
not.
I forgot about when you
I
were
did
going to
too.
do this.
I had to think. It's like you'd think I would be a little bit more on task this morning. Um,
Really.
so that story then it was that also because when you're in Charleston and you're seeing all the Civil War history, Fort Sumter and all the things that are around there that you can go through and you can see in the museums. Does anything in Charleston play into World War I where you got inspiration from that?
So Charleston, it has a big kind of Navy um, group. And so I was very curious just on my own, the Navy's part and play in World War I during, in Charleston. And I found that a lot of people, or a lot of what it was taking old merchant ships, because if you think about it, we were not prepared to go overseas and be shipping all of these people.
Right.
And really, World War I is not too far away from the Civil War. So and we did have submarines in the Civil War, which is mind blowing to me. We had the Hunley. I don't know if you've ever heard of that in Charleston. You can go see it. It's preserved in this tank. Um, but it was a lot of kind of turning these merchant ships into battleships and transporter ships for these soldiers. And so there was a lot of kind of mechanical aspects to that, and that's kind of
Mhm.
played into my story. And then a lot of it was just us kind of escorting our allies' ships through these territories that had German U-boats in them. Uh,
Okay.
and so that's kind of a lot of what South Carolina's, naval involvement with World War I was.
Okay. So that's two. Do you have a third novel in your mind?
I just have the time period. I don't have
Okay.
the
Anything
plot.
else?
I'm one of these people that like I can only focus
Oh, I hear you.
on
I'm
things
I totally hear you.
yeah. In fact, right now I'm working on an anthology with a few other authors, and it's so hard for me to like, get in this. Like, you really have to, I don't know, just close out what you're working on to work on a new project. It's hard to go back and forth. But I mean, it's fun. It's good, mental gymnastics too to fully immerse yourself into one of the other worlds. So.
Well, when I was writing for a publisher, I was doing 3 books a year. And so
Oh
I was working on my second book. I was working on one book, editing the other one, and plotting the third one. And which is one of the reasons I really wanted to try to go off on my own. It was, you have to there's no balance. For me, I'm not some people can write super fast. I mean, they can have a book done in a couple months and they're good. The older I get, the slower I write, and I feel like I'm waiting for the Holy Spirit to give me the direction, and
Mhm.
God doesn't always work on our timeline, so you're kind of waiting around and praying and
Yeah.
that
Oh,
inspiration.
yeah. I'm very similar. I find that I will have weeks where I just can't find anything to write. And then I'll have, 4 or 5 days where I crank out thousands of words. And then I recognize that flow that I have. And so I've come to kind of just go along with it. And if I feel like, because I know that writing's not going to be great if I force myself to write when I don't want to.
Right.
So how do you
Right.
manage to do 3 a year? That to me is just wild. Like to have that discipline to sit down and write, even when you're probably not feeling up for it. And that,
Right. Well, that's what happened the last I went on indie and then I was working on a Christmas novella because that's what I always did. You did a Christmas book, you did a summer book, and you did your regular book. And I
Mhm.
got done. I'm down to like I finished all of it except the last epilogue. I'm done, right? And and I moved on to this other and I just felt like the Lord was saying, you're not publishing this book. So I'm giving it away as a lead magnet come the holiday time, but it's like, okay, my husband has been telling me for years, why can't you just do one book a year? Why do you have to? Because my publisher expected it, right? So you're not writing, you don't have control over everything. So
Mhm.
his thing is he's a big reader of the Joe Pickett novels. Have you heard of Joe Pickett?
I have not. No.
They had a TV show. It was a couple of seasons. It was really good, and they canceled it. A friend of mine said they canceled it because there was no sex and there was no, you
Mhm.
know, non-Christian stuff going on in there, so they had to cancel it because it wasn't appealing to enough people. But he's a wild fishing game guy, and he
Okay.
reads these books, and they're by a man named C.J. Box, and he keeps saying he only does one a year. See, he's got only one a year, and he's doing really well. And I'm like, well, I'm not C.J. Box, and I didn't have a television series written after one of my stories, so.
Yeah, it would be a lot more encouraging if you knew that they were going to turn your book into a
I
movie.
know, or a
Yeah,
series. Like, yeah, you
yeah,
pick that up and it's like, well, because you can coast on that,
yeah,
you're in the minds of other people, which
yeah.
goes to show by speaking of marketing, how do you handle marketing? Because it looks like you did your own website, you did your own cover. Are you using a professional editor or are you doing your own editing?
Yeah, so I edited as much as I could, but then I had a lot of beta readers and a lot of ARC readers that I gave them full freedom to let me know if they found anything. And so after I would say probably 20 rounds of getting back and forth, I feel like we got it to a pretty good place. So yeah, I did not pay a professional editor,
Right.
but I'm very, very thankful for the people who did come
Yeah.
alongside me and read through it and were not afraid to send me screenshots at like 2 in the morning when they were reading it and say, "Oh, I found this. You're missing an apostrophe or whatever." So
Right. Well, I have a friend of mine, I was reading her book and she had already had two editors go through it and I was finding stuff all over the place.
Mhm.
So I screenshot all the stuff to her. On this page you have this, on this page you have that. And then anyway, and she said it, she's not from where I grew up. And so she said it in that place. And I'm like, well, this can't occur here. It
right.
makes she goes, really? I'm like, yeah, really. So then she had to go back and change book two to align with the proper. So anyway.
Oh wow.
It helps if you have somebody from that area, like Charleston. If you're going to write about Charleston, you want somebody who's lived in Charleston to know.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because, people ask me about the research of this, and I did have some distinct days where I did research, but, a lot of the scenery and stuff has been unchanged, especially when you're talking
Right,
about the rivers and the marshes. And I mean, that
right,
was my childhood. So it was so easy for me to just pull those memories back and write about them.
exactly. Yeah, that does help. So how did you find your beta readers and people that were willing to read for you and your ARC readers? Did you just advertise it somewhere or what?
Yeah, I just went on Instagram and just asked if anyone would be willing. And when I first started, I opened my Instagram in January. And so I have not had my account up very long. And at first, I would just find people who kind of were like minded, Christian authors, and I said, I will read your book if you read my book, and we can give each other feedback. And so at first it was a lot of me reading other people's books so that they would read my book. But then it kind of the ball started rolling, and I when it came time to find ARC readers, I just asked, and I had like 17 off the get go that were
Oh,
interested. So I'm very, very thankful for all of those women because it was very encouraging to me.
wow, that's awesome. So, so you're on Instagram, so do you not do Facebook, or you just pretty much stick with Instagram?
Yeah, I pretty much stick with Instagram. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your marketing, have you done anything like with Book Funnel or any of those kinds of?
Not
No.
yet. No, no. I had another friend who is an author, and she just encouraged me to kind of wait until there was a lull, and then you can start doing that.
A
And
lull. There is no such thing as that, right?
right.
It's
um,
just a little warning there that you may have a heart. That's like, I'm going to do this when life is perfect. It just doesn't pan
right.
out that way usually.
Right.
I
Yeah.
hear you. You got to find some free time to do that. But
Mm.
if you have any questions, let me know because I just
Yeah.
delved into the whole book funnel thing. 'Cause when you're with a publisher, you don't have control over those books to put in there and to deal with and to get promos and everything. So it's a whole new world to me too. So it's always
Yeah.
fun.
It's overwhelming for sure when you think about, like, I didn't even know half of these websites and platforms were a thing until just recently. So
And
it is.
the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yep. Oh yeah. Very humbling.
Did you format your book yourself? Did you use a program?
I used Atticus,
Oh,
which is a
love
program.
Atticus.
Yes.
Love Atticus. Yes. I looked at Vellum and I looked at Atticus and it was like for half the price and I got all my books back, so I literally had to format 15 books at one time. And I
Wow.
never knew how to do it. So it was like that was my lull. It was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't write for 2 months just trying to learn how to format and do all that. So it's a huge amount of work, but
Yeah, and just understanding the software. Anytime you have to learn a new software, it's going to take a while.
exactly finding out where you're having your issues and glitches and how come this isn't working and you're searching. Wow, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm excited for you and for this book and your next one and your third one, wherever that comes out. When you get your next one done, let me know and I'd be happy to have you on again and we can talk about that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm planning on hopefully having it released early next year. So
Okay. Well, awesome. How far along are you with it?
about halfway done.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm one of these people who, like, I have the plot and then I'll start writing, but I can't move on from a chapter until I feel like it's exactly where I want it. And so I feel like I'm a little bit slower because it just takes me a while to get it, and then I'll go back and reread it
Oh
and
my gosh.
change a bunch of things.
You sound just like me. I have that same problem. My publisher's like, well, just move on, just finish it up and move on. I'm like, I can't. I gotta get back into the emotion. I gotta edit where I'm going and get back into the emotion. And you can't just jump in there and kick off with nothing. It's like you have to rebuild it every day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, in the previous chapter, I mean, is going to influence how the next chapter plays out.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I don't, because I started, I like the idea of plotting to a point because I do want to have structure, but if you plot too much, then you're not allowing the Holy Spirit to come in there. And that's to me, that's the most exciting part of writing is when all of a sudden a character shows up that you are not expecting
Yeah.
and they take on a significant role in the story. I mean, in my book, Night Songs, it was a dog, believe it or not. It was a
Aw.
dog that showed up. I was not expecting that dog to be anything in there. And then that dog actually played a significant part in her spiritual learning of acceptance and love, unconditional love, and getting herself attached to something, and then God being in there and protecting that love for that dog when she
Oh,
didn't even
that
expect the dog to be in there. So you just never know.
yeah, that's kind of how it was for this book too. My character Owen was never really supposed to be in there, and then it was kind of like, well, because my main the male Fred is just always trying to do the right thing, and I kind of, it almost was like, okay, but what if you had a character who, did the selfish thing and didn't, and then the same thing, like, I was just like, okay, though, this is what, but then I kind of, as the story unfolded, I was like, okay, I see why now, because you kind of see how the consequences of your decisions play out over years and years. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important. I was just teaching our little Sunday school class. I teach 4 and 5 year olds, and we
oh,
were talking about consequences yesterday. It's like what are consequences? Because we were talking about King Saul and how he disobeyed God, and then he lost, being king. God chose David over him, and so it's those consequences, and the kids seeing playing out over time. For that age group, it's like not eating a cookie when your mama says not to eat it.
you're
It's like meet them where they are.
right.
It's been
Yeah,
fun.
for sure. That's actually interesting because we're learning about Saul right now in church too.
Are you? I wonder if you got the same curriculum we do, maybe, because we're going through the Bible chronologically.
That's exactly
Are
what
you?
we're doing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so the adults are doing the same thing the kids are doing. So, my husband teaches Sunday school a lot, and he's like, okay, what are you guys doing today? And I said, the same thing you are. It's just on a different level, and we have to dummy it down a little bit and take out all
A
the
lot, yeah.
yeah, take out all the really, like Saul said he would kill anybody who ate before they went to battle, but you can't tell the kids that he was going to kill his own son. He was going to punish him, and so then, so you have to
Yeah.
change it up, but it's fun. I love teaching that. I never thought I would because I always taught middle school, but I love that age group so much. It's crazy. They don't get my sarcasm, but that's okay.
But
We'll
that makes it more enjoyable because it's kind of like, yeah. Have you watched the House of David?
No.
It is very, very good.
House of David?
House of David, it's on Amazon Prime. I don't know if you have Amazon
I
Prime.
do.
Um, it is, and I did some research because I was a little nervous that they were going to take the Bible and kind of turn it into something that it wasn't. But the guy who plays David is a strong Christian, and he'll say in interviews like, "I'm doing this to bring glory to God, like not to bring glory to myself." But it's the story of David, and it starts. The first season starts with Saul, and you see his downfall
Wow.
by not listening to Samuel or God. And it is kind of dark in some places because like they have the, what's it called, is it called a say, like the um almost like the witch kind of thing that,
Sorcery type of thing.
yeah, yeah, so they do include that, and you kind of see how that impacts Saul's downfall because he's turning away from God.
Right. And God allows the evil spirit to invade him. Yeah.
Yep, and you see that play out. You see him kind of go crazy with this.
Well, I have to look that up. That sounds
It's
good.
so good. And then David's character, just the most humble character at the beginning, and you kind of see him. And the first season ends with him killing Goliath, and it's so well done.
Oh, well, definitely, I will definitely look at that
It
because
is very
we
good.
we watch all the Chosen and we try to,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And if you're going through the book of Samuel right now, like it's making it all come to life to me to have watched that show, and then
Yeah.
us going through First and Second Samuel right now. It's really kind of helping me understand it better.
Well, and I'm reading that in my own daily reading. I'm right now. I'm in First Kings and Second Chronicles right now.
Mhm.
So. It's pretty impactful. So thank you for that. It's
Yeah,
been a pleasure, Emily. Thank you
yeah.
so much. I look forward to seeing what you're doing in the future, and I appreciate you coming on to the podcast and sharing all what you're doing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's been a blessing. Good luck with all of your endeavors, and we will get all the information for you in the show notes. We'll put in your website, we'll put in the Amazon link, we'll do all that stuff. So you guys can find Emily really easily.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.